Before we begin, I wanted to say that I've created a second channel which will allow me to publish all the live and video content for sim racing and keep the esports stuff separate from the starcitizen channel. I'll be making an announcement video in the future and launch a pretty beefy contest to get the numbers up over there, as there's a push to get it to partner status. You can help not only by subscribing, but by watching the videos, as I also need to clock 4,000 total hours. We've already reached 100, and with your help, I'm very sure that can be easily reached. So I appreciate your support with that endeavor, and with this extra time being retired, you can expect even better content here once CIG gets back to work. I appreciate any time you can invest by helping me there. Now we begin. Hello YouTubers, this is noobifier. Welcome to the third in the series, Community Concerns, and part of its own playlist. I now have more time to research, and this process also gives me better awareness as to what's important in our community. Most already know, but if you're new, I'm going to say that Spectrum might not be where I would go first, because it is a salty echo chamber, and last week some specifically asked me what I meant when I said it was aggressively moderated. I will clarify, Spectrum is not what we would consider to be a place where you can speak your mind freely without having your thread locked, deleted, or even being warned or banned. So, it's up to you to comment your comments here so that we can get a wider opinion on my opinions presented. There are links to all threads covered in the description so that you can go wage your own intellectual warfare in the original thread. First, I'll say that this one had a couple layers of sarcasm in it, and it's not always easy to detect. I think after reading it over a couple times, I got the basics hammered out. Citizen Tech posted that now that everyone has made a bunch of money after the 316 wipe, that they were basically asking for another. They were upset with the rate that people could make money at Jumptown, saying that they felt stupid, to use their own words, when grinding cargo, when all they needed to do was wait for this event. I'm going to say that I do agree that balancing the economy is critical in an MMO, because nobody will have any reason to play any other mechanic or loop if they can make double per minute doing something else. Whatever pays more per minute will be where most are playing. I noticed two great points that were brought up in that thread's replies. First is that Jumptown 2 seems to make that nerf from 1000 to 250 seem even dumber, because if CIG was really worried about the economy being broken way back then, why now is it okay to do it 2 weeks later? And then the statement that Tony Z's Quanta isn't in game yet and is going to be a major contributing factor in keeping that balance after launch. But as the dynamic economy isn't in game, and all the trade, salvage, exploration, data running, repair isn't there either, all of those when added may also need a full wipe. The point was, it may not matter during an alpha. The rest of the thread was actually a fun back and forth. Knag, I guess, asked the OP with a bit of a burn why they seemed so upset about the broken economy when they themselves have a big fleet paid for with real money, and that's the basic pay to win argument over again. Their point was that either being a purist and start the game with nothing, or stop complaining about the balance issues when you yourself are imbalancing your own experience. And then Oxygen came up with the best statement that I think addresses all of it, and that is when we get Quanta as promised, that balance will actively heal the economy, trade, security, and none of this should be a problem. And then many other people said that there are even more profitable ways to make credit in the universe that have nothing to do with Jumptown, so none of this is something that needs to be changed. What are your thoughts? Do you feel that the balance is off for Jumptown 2? Do you have any ideas on how it could be changed, or are you simply happy? Comment your comments in the comments. The next one, I was actually really surprised that moderators didn't lock it down instantly. Kenji82 took a snapshot of the roadmap from this time last year to make an assessment on what was said back then and what was actually released. The title of the post insinuated that they were expecting a repeat of 2021 when not much in the way of progress was made. They set expectations very low, and they said that they would consider 2022 a success if CIG could get ship-to-ship refueling to work, the X1 in-game, and full persistence. I thought the post was trolling until I took a look at the included roadmap with the crude but effective doodles over it. There were 97 replies, and then there was a post that basically said that CIG needs to start locking down core mechanics soon. To be fair to CIG, they would be doing that if the supporting tech was already ready, and that seems to be exactly what they're working on, so technically they are doing that. Tarka Roche brought up an interesting perspective that Squadron 42 is why they feel the development is lagging expectations and why things are being delayed. They also expressed their concerns that despite having a detailed roadmap and over 9 years experience developing these games, that they now actually have come to expect items to be delayed by default and are surprised when they're released on time. I don't personally feel that Squadron 42 itself is delaying the Persistent Universe development, because they are tied together. I do sadly feel that whenever it does release, hopefully late in 23 or early 24, it'll make the company a bunch of money, but only be popular for about a month or two at most, like any other single-player game. So it does make sense that they would want to delay its release until the PU is seen as more of a complete game, to use the 2 months of hype for Squadron to propel the PU rather than have it seen just as a tech demo. I found this string of discussion to be wildly interesting, because I have my own opinions on the development, and it was nice to get that wider perspective. And I'm going to end by asking, do you feel that CIG will ramp up in 2022 and keep up with its own roadmap, and what are you hoping to see in 2022? Therios is worried that the difficulty of the current version of the MMO Star Citizen will keep it away from mainstream and it won't reach its full potential. And Fyron summarized my thoughts that you can't make any sort of proper assessment of what the game will be because it's only an alpha of an alpha. The current PU may be overwhelming to a new player, and we longtime backers who have stick time may take our past knowledge a little bit for granted. But there were some comments in that thread that said that Star Citizen is simple compared to learning DCS. I suppose the takeaway for me is that any game seems complex at first, which is normal. Star Citizen is brutal though in some aspects, as nothing is intuitive. Finding ships is a pain in the butt, finding missions, finding gear, not being killed instantly on takeoff. The OP is correct with all of those. Do I think that CIG needs to invest hundreds of development hours into making the game easier for the new player to learn? No, not at this time, and in no way do I feel that that's a good use of anyone's time, because all we need to do is go back 7 years and remember that original tutorial mission. It taught you to do a bunch of things, and then the next patch it was made completely useless and removed as the bindings and all the subsystems were updated. So even after 9 years, no, it's not the time to worry about tutorials. There were 106 replies back and forth there in that thread, and again, interesting to see what the community thinks of its game. Shane Deuce asked the question, why was a donation being taxed? And they asked for clarification once again whether a ship was a digital purchase or a donation. The only reason I'm bringing up this thread now is that it had some of the best answers and justification on the subject. The ship that you buy can be seen as a donation or digital asset depending on the country that you're living in, and CIG has no say in whether or not that's being taxed or not. I imagine it would be infuriating to pay tax on a spaceship for a game, but the best argument that was brought up is when you buy a copy of Windows, just like that spaceship, it's an agreement that the buyer will get use out of it, just like any other service. So I guess the takeaway is, don't be confused or frustrated at CIG for being taxed on a concept spaceship, because that's actually your local government's policy, not the game company. I'm going to end today on a post from Marcus the Mover because I love how they clearly presented their point. A chart of all the ships based on when they were sold and how many were finished, what the split was, and also a bunch of interesting insight. I'm not going to comment on it. You should go check it out yourself and read all the comments they received because it had some fantastic deductions and theories. That's linked like the others for you. We're at the end of this week's rundown. Do you have any suggestions on how I can improve? Thank you very much for spending your time with me. I do work hard to entertain and inform. Can you please support me by spreading the word and sharing this content with others? That helps a lot more than you might think. Fly safe, and I'll see you in the verse.